Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game S. So today we're going to continue the series, The Port Authority, where I take a look at some of my favorite arcade games of all time and compare them to their home console ports. And one of my favorite light gun games of all time is Time Crisis from Namco. This is an absolutely perfect game that was amazing in arcades, and when it got ported home to the PlayStation 1 with a gun con in the box, I had to have it day one. I played the ever-loving hell out of it. I absolutely loved it. So we're going to be putting Time Crisis directly against Time Crisis with a little bit of a twist this week, because I got something fun to show you. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps me out. If you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But this is running on the Namco System 22 hardware, which was intensely more powerful than the PlayStation 1. This was a massive box. It cost a fortune to buy a cabinet for this back in the day, and it's still impressive hardware for its time and era. This just looks absolutely incredible, and I would say the graphical stylings and the overall bright, cheery nature of the colors with the action-oriented gameplay really do hold up incredibly well. And if we move over to the PlayStation 1 version, I will give it massive credit for being the exact same game that you played in arcades. Obviously, it's taken a big graphical hit going from the System 22 to the PlayStation 1, but the fun factor is entirely intact here. You'll have to excuse the crosshair. For some reason, DuckStation's update broke the aiming on GunCon support, so I'm not sure when that's going to be fixed. But as we move back over to the System 22 version, you can see the night and day graphical difference, but there are some upsides to the PlayStation 1 version, which we'll get into in just a bit. But the good takeaway at the start is this game is absolutely insanely fun no matter how you play it. Even if the PlayStation 1 version doesn't look anywhere near as good as the System 22 version does, the entire game has been ported home with bonus content, which is going to make a big difference in what I recommend you play. But the nice thing is, on the PlayStation 1 side of things, the GunCon is as accurate of a light gun controller as the arcade cabinet ever had. For the most part, arcade light guns were way more accurate than their home counterparts, but Namco developed their own system for PlayStation 1, which just made it absolutely as good. And even though the graphics on the System 22 are going to blow the doors off of the PlayStation 1 any day of the week, the gameplay accuracy is just 100% there, and that's what really matters. But let's go to a side-by-side comparison of this era, and you can see absolutely the difference in the overall look. It's not just a lower polygon count, it's not just more pixelated textures. The lighting scheme has definitely changed a little bit here as well. The Namco System 22 version is going to be lighter all around, and that's how I do remember the game playing, but honestly, the PlayStation 1 version being slightly darker doesn't really affect anything. It is just a slightly different color profile involved. Now, if you can't tell already from the footage, the PlayStation 1 version definitely isn't running as smoothly. It is not running at the same frame rate as the arcade version, so that's something that can't be rectified no matter what you do. So if you want the smoothest playing version of Time Crisis, you definitely want to play the arcade original either on a cabinet or obviously in MAME, because for the most part, cabinets are still out there, but they're not getting any more common. And if we move over to the same section on the PlayStation 1 again, it's in these busy areas where the pixelation really does show through. You end up having a little bit less detail in the architecture, and it can be slightly harder to spot enemies at a distance because they are pixelated as well. Again, nothing too bad, but honestly, this is still a hyper impressive port when it comes to bringing home the Namco System 22, because again, it was massively powerful. But there was one big advantage to the PlayStation 1 version of this game that the arcade never had. That is the fact that there is a completely custom campaign in Time Crisis 1 added to the PlayStation version of the game. So as far as the content is concerned, you are getting so much more here for your money, even if you're not spending any of it, when you play the PlayStation 1 version. So taking that graphical downgrade is 100% worth it if you want to play more Time Crisis content. And honestly, this extra campaign is as good as anything that they ever did in the arcade original, and it's so worth playing. This was just basically the fact that when they were bringing this home and selling a GunCon in the box alongside of it, they wanted to make sure you got value for your money, so giving you an entirely new game to play basically for free, that was something that definitely added to the overall value. And again, even if it doesn't look as good as the arcade original, having twice the amount of game here is definitely going to be something that is fundamentally important. But the good thing is, and I said there was a twist, we could make the PlayStation 1 look incredibly close to actual Namco System 22 hardware, because if you use DuckStation like I'm doing here, we can turn on visual enhancements, taking it to look something like this to almost System 22 caliber graphics, and that definitely is a pun for 22 caliber and a Time Crisis game. But you're getting all the internal rendering resolution upscaling, you're getting that perspective correct texturing, everything here looks incredibly close to what the arcade original would have been like, and and that is a fun thing to do, because the best part is when we talk about ports, yes, I can talk about the straight port, but I can also tell you how to enhance the game to get it even better than the arcade original, because this definitely still has a different color profile than the System 22, but you have a completely new campaign, and if you just turn on the Vulkan API and do some enhancements, you can get incredibly close to that arcade original look. As right now we're in the PlayStation 1 in software mode, and now we're going to move over to the Namco System 22. You're going to see the fundamental jump in graphics, and again it's going to be brighter and a little bit more colorful. There's nothing we can really do about that in the enhancements, but as we move over to the enhanced PlayStation 1 version here, again these cutscenes are very closely mirroring what the Namco System 22 would look like. Sure, some of the textures are still going to be lower quality than the actual arcade original, but if you enhance the game in this manner and play on PlayStation 1 with DuckStation with something like a gun con, you're getting twice as much game and 95% of the same graphics you would have seen in the arcades, and that is absolutely something where emulation just benefits some of these older games. I love being able to enhance them and see something I've never seen before. So I'm going to give you a side-by-side again, and I'm going to let you listen to the audio quality. First we're going to go with the Namco System 22, then we're going to go with the PlayStation 1, so go ahead and listen, see if you can hear any difference whatsoever, and I'll be back with some more gameplay in a second.
Halt! Action! Get him! Reload! There! Fire! Action! Action!
Honestly, they sound near identical, and if I didn't actually change the source and just ran it twice, I don't think many people would notice that. But honestly, I do exactly what I say when I make these videos. Then moving back over to the arcade original, again, the one place in which you can't enhance the PlayStation 1 version enough is going to be the frame rate and motion on the screen. The arcade version has the absolute edge when it comes to that. So this is a really interesting port authority where I'm not exactly sure which version of the game I would recommend to you. I think it's going to end up in one of these situations where if you want to play the original game, just Time Crisis in the arcades, I would recommend you find an arcade cabinet or you emulate it in MAME with a gun for IR, Sinden, or otherwise, so you get that awesome experience and you get the original Namco System 22 graphics. Now, if you want to play the original game between PlayStation 1 and the arcade and you don't use DuckStation, then I would probably play the arcade version of the game. Sure, they are both the exact same content, the exact same fun, but obviously the Namco System 22 version is going to give you the better effect. But I do love that all of this glass breaking effect here in the PlayStation 1 version was brought over completely from the arcade version. All of the effects, all of the little touches made its way over with no changes whatsoever to the content, so that's definitely impressive. The fact that they were able to shrink down Time Crisis to even work on PlayStation 1 hardware is absolutely one of the best ports I've seen in the PlayStation 1 era, so the developers at Namco get huge credit for that 100% of the time. Even if the PlayStation version here is more pixelated and a lower resolution and a lower frame rate, it is exactly what you want to play on your PlayStation 1. And considering how big of a hit this was in arcades, getting a home port in any condition was awesome. If you think about this compared to something like the home port of House of the Dead on the Sega Saturn, you can 100% tell this is definitely fundamentally so much better. So here's the thing, here's the determination. If you just want to play the original arcade game and nothing else, you want to be playing it on MAME. That is where the game absolutely just looks better, has a higher frame rate, and the original brighter colors that the developers and artists at Namco intended when they actually made the game. So that's my recommendation for the base game. You want to be on MAME. So obviously that means I have to recommend the PlayStation 1 version for the additional campaign because it's the only place that it is. But honestly, if you're going to be playing the original campaign, do it in MAME. If you're going to be playing the expanded campaign, do it in DuckStation, throw on some enhancements, and you can basically feel like you're playing this on the Namco System 22. So that was a weird port authority. Hope you guys enjoy it. Recommend some games down below you want to see compared, and I will see you all for the next episode. Bye-bye.